Midtown Madness. I absolutely adored this game, and as much as I loved seeing the setting of Chicago in this one, I had hoped for expansion packs with new cities. But much to my surprise back then, just a year later, Microsoft and Angel Studios released Midtown Madness 2 in the year 2000. And despite it billing itself as a sequel, for all intents and purposes, this is just a big fat expansion pack to the first game, featuring the same cars, the same menus, the same racing modes, and much of the same game engine. But on top of that, it included another dozen or so vehicles, and 2 open-world maps, the city of San Francisco and London. Also, this original North American boxed release is stupidly hard to find these days, so if you have a copy, please do your part to love and cherish that thing. Although inside it isn't very exciting, you get a jewel case featuring the game on a single compact disc and a dinky little manual, which is only a few pages long. But hey, it's printed in full color and tackles all the gameplay basics, which is 100% better than no manual with racing games today, so I can't complain. After some introductory logo animations, it's straight to the main menu with some ridiculously bass-filled music. My 15-year-old friends and I used to blast that song when comparing our subwoofers and seeing whose speakers could rattle my house's windows the most. On retrospect, sorry Mom, and thanks for putting up with our crap. Anyways, we'll be looking at the single-player racing modes today, but it's worth noting that even though the MSN Gaming Zone support ended for this in 2006, you can still play online through a direct connection if you can find anyone to play with. So yeah, I got some single-player modes to look at, and most of the modes in this game are the same as the first, but Crash Course is a new mode provided to you by your rich Uncle Donald. Thanks, Donald. Wait, which rich Donald were you thinking of? From here, you can learn to be a London cabbie or a San Francisco stunt driver, with a series of lessons and tests to complete, which unlocks new content like liveries and cars. It's all pretty straightforward stuff involving checkpoints, timers, and obstacle courses, but it's a nice little diversion from the standard checkpoints, timers, and AI obstacles, I guess. Okay, so it's not all that different from the other racing modes, but hey, they tried. And yeah, the rest of the modes are all pretty similar, and it's kinda hard to tell them apart at first glance. Just like the first game, Blitz is a checkpoint-laden timed sprint across the map. Checkpoint races provide a number of checkpoints to pass through in any order you like, with the goal being to hit them all before your opponents, and circuit races have you taking traditional racing laps around the city. But if you're like me, the main event is the Cruise mode, which lets you go wild in an open world. No timers, no checkpoints, no opponents, just a big map with a bunch of stuff to smash up and crazy jumps to fly off of, and some extremely obnoxious police that will never get off your case. It's also the most customizable race type, letting you choose the map, the time of day, weather options, and how many pedestrians, traffic vehicles, and police cruisers you'll run into, or will run into you. You can also choose from any one of the 20 vehicles in the game. Many of these have to be unlocked, and many of them come from the first game, but there's still way more variety here. I remember how having the all-caps new Mini Cooper was a big deal at the time, much like how the Volkswagen New Beetle was a big deal in the first one. You also get vehicle showcases complete with press photographs and websites because marketing. Well, unless it's the London Black Cab, which is just a rendered model from the game badly overlaid onto a photo of a street corner. One thing that's missing compared to the first game here is the physics realism slider, which, according to producer Jay Panek, the physics are so good now the need for a slider wasn't necessary. Really? If there's one complaint I have about this game, it's that while some of the cars are lots of fun to drive, others are completely useless, especially the ones that made it over from the first game for some reason. The physics slider would often make the difference between a fun drive and a total crapshoot, but in Midtown Madness 2, you're left with whatever the programmers thought was best. This means that certain cars like the Mustang Fastback are junk to drive, which sucks because certain modes like Stunt Driver force you to use that car in particular. And I really enjoyed driving the Cadillac Eldorado and the New Beetle in the first game, but here they're just too far off the rails to be much fun in any of the more serious racing modes. Thankfully, there are some fan-made physics mods out there to address this, but this awful handling and physics model was a huge reason I didn't like the game very much back when it first launched. I mean, okay, I liked it, but I didn't love it how I did the first one. Playing with a steering wheel helped, but only so much, especially since I had a crappy Interact V3 that acted more like a joystick that rotated as opposed to a proper analog racing wheel. While we're on the subject of gripes, I was also never fond of the damage model here. I mean, functionally it works the same as the first one, but the aesthetics, we always called it bird poop damage, because instead of sections of your car looking like they would crumple up, the textures would just get sort of mottled and, I don't know, bird poopy. It was never really convincing damage to me. Anyway, now that I'm done taking a dump on my own adolescent years, holy crap, this game is fun in cruise mode. Once you find a car or two that you really like, the sheer madness you can cause in the Midtown is maniacally fun. Okay, I couldn't think of another word starting with M, but you know what I mean? When it's hitting on all cylinders, Midtown Madness 2 is classic silly gaming at its best. Just a bunch of physics and objects to play with that are almost completely unrealistic, but dang it, it's so over the top and features enough real-world similarities that it's still a blast to screw around with. Being able to plow through the Transamerica Pyramid in a Humvee or bowl over central London traffic in a double-decker bus is pure wish fulfillment. Objects just fly all over the place when you collide with them, and the trees this time burst into a million pieces when you hit them, thank goodness. Nothing stands in your way, whether you're driving a Ford or a Freightliner, and the sense of abject freedom is wonderful. There's no rhyme or reason to any of this, and there doesn't need to be because computer games. I can just imagine the developers going, wow, look at what we can do with all this horsepower computers have nowadays. Processors have just hit 1 gigahertz and graphics cards have 64 megabytes, let's just go nuts. This kind of relentless, pointless, and cathartic fun that exists simply because it can exist is something that I've missed in recent years, especially when it comes to open-world racing games. Here, there's no epic storyline, no masturbatory cutscenes, and not even any characters to speak of at all, unless you include the announcers at the start of each race.
You could look for a good curry takeout while you're out and about, if you don't mind.
A cruise gives you a great chance to learn your vehicle. Oh yeah, make sure you sweep through Haight-Ashbury, okay?
Now that's not to say there's anything wrong with a bit of storyline and panache in racing games. There's a place for a little of everything, but Midtown Madness 2 stands out because in a way, it's the last of its kind. After Midtown Madness's developers, Angel Studios, were acquired by Take-Two, Microsoft and DICE went on to create Midtown Madness 3 for the original Xbox, but it used a different game engine and was really kind of its own separate thing. Angel Studios, however, went on to create the Midnight Club and Smuggler's Run games using the Angel game engine codebase from Midtown Madness 2. This engine was then partially used as the basis for the Rockstar Advanced Game Engine, or RAGE, powering games like Grand Theft Auto 4 and 5. And yes, Angel Studios became Rockstar San Diego, who went on to create the venerable Red Dead Redemption. So it's fascinating to me to look at such a simple, fun racing game and think about what it turned into over the next decade of new leadership. But getting back on target, Midtown Madness 2 is still worth your time if you can track down a copy. Unfortunately, it's not sold anywhere at the time of this video, so that sucks, but there are various online acquisition methods that shall remain unspoken, wink wink, as well as various ways to play the game at full speed on modern Windows PCs. You'll need a combination of the DG Voodoo wrapper, the official Windows XP patch, a fan-made startup patch, and another patch for the fan-made patch to allow higher memory consumption. But yeah, it's totally playable on a modern Windows machine these days. Is just a bit of work is involved, but it's awesome. Not only that, but there's still a solid community for the game, releasing cars, tracks, mods, and hosting online races to this day, notably on mm2x.com. I'm glad that site's still around, that brings back memories. I'll provide links in the video description for this stuff too, so if you want to give Midtown Madness 2 a shot, it's totally doable, and I highly recommend it. It might not keep you engaged forever, but for that little bit of time that it does, it's just, I can't say no to it. And if you enjoyed this video on Midtown 2, perhaps you'd like my video on Midtown 1, and I'm sure I'll cover the third one in the future, but yeah, I'm just not as fond of that one, so I don't know when I'll do that. But there's also other videos every Monday and Friday here on LGR, so watch those if you please, and as always, thank you very much for watching.